and your addiction will lead to jail, institution, or death.
And yours have led to. So, welcome to Going 180, and I am so excited because I have with me today my brother, my actual brother, Curtis Randolph Wilson.
I thought you knew.
So, this is going to be interesting, but we're going to talk about Going 180, which means change, and we're going to talk about it in a very real and raw way. And so, I'm excited to talk to my brother because he's gone through some real things, and he's been blessed with, I would say, a whole second opportunity at life on the other side of major changes. And so that's why there's no better to talk to than somebody that's close to me and somebody that I'm close to, and to kind of hear from him and to talk to him because we were raised differently, but in the same household, perhaps. I say differently because he's 5.5 years older. So we're going to talk about his addiction that he has been delivered from and how God has blessed him. And so let's just jump right in. So, yay. So, growing up, is there anything that you remember growing up that that was a good memory?
Oh, a lot of good memories. A lot of good memories. I grew up in a stable household. My dad came from his background, which was trouble. But my mother was, her background was no sainthood either, but she managed to survive. And not only that, she managed to, how do I say this, succeed. He went through the military. She was civil service. They met, they had me, moved back to the States, and, proceeded to raise me in a very loving household. It wasn't strict, but it was disciplined. My father was a disciplinarian, which didn't mean mom didn't do some disciplining of her own. I used to tell myself, I was like, I'd rather be disciplined by my dad, because my mom hit hard. But, there was...
I would have thought it was the opposite. That's so funny. I never knew that.
No, I had to mess up to get my dad involved. It was mostly mom chewing me out, and dad would sit there in the lazy boy watching the news, listening to the stereo, and reading the paper all at the same time. But he'd be sitting there in the paper, Jesse, and dad would fold the paper down, make sure nothing in the house wasn't on fire, and then go back to reading the paper. Figured she could handle it. But it's I was into sports. I was a great student. Sports, music, did music. So I had a well-rounded childhood. And I got to high school, and the one thing led to another. And the next thing you know, I was experimenting with drugs, and because everybody in high school experiments eventually. And I just went down that road.
So when you say experimenting, what does that mean?
Initially, it was just pot. I mean, Salinas was the pot capital of California. Everything came from Northern California and Southern California, traveled through Salinas. And I knew a lot of the major players as far as dealers at a young age. I got along with everybody, and I kept my mouth shut. I could be trusted, and I'd meet somebody through somebody, and that person would be like, "Hey, you don't need to come around with this guy anymore. You just give me a call and come over and get your stuff." And that's how I was with all the way up the ladder. I started at weed, then I started snorting cocaine, and next thing you know, I started smoking it, and that was the downfall. I started smoking it. I got hooked. Couldn't stop. No matter how much I wanted to stop, I couldn't stop.
So I have a question for you because this is something that, for whatever reason, seems to be a controversial issue, although I've talked to many people, that of course the marijuana is a gateway drug. But is marijuana itself addictive to you? Did you become
No, because I
addicted?
don't do marijuana anymore. I stopped marijuana, like, as soon as I started snorting cocaine, marijuana was done. I didn't do both.
So was it a gateway into it?
No,
You just went
no,
from one to
no,
the,
because the night that I first tried it, there was no weed in the house. We were in a cabin up in the Santa Cruz Mountains with me and some very, outstanding people that I consider. They're all gone on to have successful careers and families.
Mhm.
And the one guy that I never would have thought would have delved in, I don't even think I ever smoked pot with the guy.
Mhm.
Said, "Hey, you guys want to try this?" Poke out some cocaine. The next thing you know, we were snorting, girls and boys. It was
How old were you?
um sophomore year.
In high school?
Yeah, yeah, sophomore year.
I never knew that.
Yeah, sophomore year in high school, and that elevated into me being the guy. Not only did I
What does
always,
that mean?
not only did I always know where the parties were. Hey, go see Curtis. Curtis will tell you where the party's at.
Okay.
Oh, we're gonna hang out with Kurt. Kurt's gonna go to this party, that party. Whether it was North High, Salinas High, Monterey High, Carmel High, I knew where all the parties were, and I was invited by everyone.
Mm.
Summertime, you meet people from all over. So we hung out at Carmel Beach a lot. I'd meet people that went to Carmel High School. Hey, man, you exchange numbers, and the next thing you know, hey, we're having a party. We want you to come.
Wow.
And I would show up.
And what does that mean?
With party materials in hand.
And so you showed up with cocaine? It wasn't crack at that moment.
No, crack was after high school, way after high school.
Okay.
But yeah, and didn't matter where the party was, Curtis had the stuff.
Were you dealing it?
No, I just had it, and I shared.
So you weren't like a dealer?
No,
You just
but I was in with dealers.
Hmm.
I could get it fronted. I could, because I had a little job, I'd pay them back, and away you go. But they had no problem having me come over.
And this is when you were playing. And this is when you were playing football in high school.
Yeah, yeah, I was an athlete, good athlete.
Doing cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So you learned something new. So you started that doing coke, and those were lines of coke. You weren't mixing it in the weed.
Nope.
You were doing lines of coke.
Yeah, one would stop, and I'd start up the other one. That one would stop, and I'd start up the other. So it was just like I went from snorting coke to smoking it. But I want to say there was a time where I didn't do anything. It wasn't like I just went from snorting to smoking, or smoking weed, snorting coke. There was like a months, a year in between the incidents.
Okay. So you weren't addicted to it? You didn't feel like?
No, I would say I wasn't addicted to weed because I stopped.
Well, not the weed. I mean, were you addicted to coke as soon as you tried it?
No, I don't think I had an addiction to powder. It was everywhere.
Right. So the cocaine, though, were you addicted to cocaine?
No.
No.
There were plenty of times I'd go clubbing and not have any, not get any, just drink and go home.
So by the time you finished high school and graduated at kind of the top of your class, you went to Hartnell with the community college for maybe a year or two, I remember. But the college just wasn't your thing. So then you started working for a moving company.
Yeah, started driving a truck for a moving company. First working locally, and then I got hired on with the driver. And that was interesting. And
were you doing coke then?
Yeah. The first driver that I worked with, he was heavy into it. So I got heavy into it. But
you were 18 then.
Yeah. Yeah, I got heavy into it because if we didn't work, like I'd get into town on a Friday afternoon, shower, wash my car, clean up my car, make some phone calls, and get the boys together. And someone would inevitably ask, "Hey, you got any stuff?" I'm like, "Oh, you can get some." Round up the money and go get it. And then we'd go party. Someone was always having a party at that age. And back then it was house parties. I
Yeah,
don't think you have house parties anymore.
not like they used
You know,
to.
we had, everyone had a house party
Back
every
then.
weekend, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday, we'd go to the beach, hang out or go eat.
That's right.
You know, Sunday was,
This
go
was in
eat.
the 80s.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
one of the big things on Sundays was to just go eat somewhere.
Because you graduated in 80,
I graduated in 80.
in 80.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
that, Sundays were always, let's go eat. Let's replenish our bodies. So we'd go eat. Someone was having a barbecue. Even back then, I ended up cooking. I was just like,
Yeah, you
sitting
were.
there, sitting there watching a burn meat, and I was just like, these people.
Okay, so after college, because you didn't stay, you went to college for about a year or two. And you decided-
And then I started driving a truck, moving furniture,
Mhm.
and that was about 5 years. And then I went to NPC, and that was and you know what? After that, when I started first moving furniture, I was driving, did a lot of blow.
Mhm.
And then I went back to school.
Mhm.
No, I
Culinary
didn't.
school.
Oh, no. I started working with another driver, and
Mhm.
he was about as straight laced as possible. I worked for him for 5 years.
Mhm.
So I did nothing in those 5 years, not really.
Okay.
Yeah. So other than just learn the business and learn how to run a business, because he was really good.
So did your relationship with dad change in high school? Junior high, high school?
It did in the sense that I was an adult
Mhm.
and now I had my own job.
Mhm.
And he used to make comments like, we must be nice running the streets. And I'm like, I don't run the streets, Dad. I drive a truck up and down the state and I make very good money.
Mhm.
I
Did
was
you ever
in it.
feel like dad wasn't proud of you?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I, after talking with a therapist in the latter years, basically narrowed it down to my addiction was fueled by not feeling appreciated. No matter what I did, I got knocked down.
Right.
And that was part of the reason why I quit football. Because he was expecting me to go on and turn pro and take care of him and the family. Yeah. Oh yeah, well he used to comment all the time. Yeah, my son's gonna turn pro and buy us a motorhome. We're just gonna travel around to his games. And I was just like, you don't even go to my games. Big Mom went to one.
I was there, but
Yeah.
I was a kid. But
Yeah, my dad never even went to my game.
But you
So basically out of that, like my senior year, I think I got tired.
plus you hurt your you had a
Yeah, but when I quit, I was fine. I
Oh, I
wasn't
didn't know
injured.
that.
I wasn't injured when I quit.
you quit because of that because he
yeah,
wasn't going.
I quit. I walked in there and turned in my pads and stuff. And
Really? Because you were.
Coach Walsh was a really good
Yes.
mentor of mine. He was heartbroken. He was like, "What are you doing, man?" And I had PE. By halfway through the senior year, I think my last semester I had like 3 PEs, and he was the instructor in all 3. And he told me every time, "Oh, what did you do?" I was getting ready to start you and mold you into this and that.
You just fed up.
I just said, "Man, I'm not feeling it anymore."
And it was largely because of that.
Yeah.
Because of dad.
Pretty
Did you know
much.
that dad was doing drugs?
Oh, I figured he was smoking, but he was grown. He did whatever he wanted. But see, if we go back and look at addiction, they say it's hereditary. They say it's genetics. Grandpa was an alcoholic, and he was a mean alcoholic.
Mm-hmm. Dad's
And-
father.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad just, even, and then if I look at my behavior and watch my dad's behavior, he was constantly trying to receive his father's love, and it just wasn't happening, including to the point of grandpa passed, left him a bunch of money, and he tried to do something good with it. He had property up in Washington. Remember, he had the strip mall in Washington, and then bought the apartments. And Mom was the kind of person who was, I'm not sure you want to do this.
Conservative.
Yeah, very conservative with the money. But, sometimes you got to take a chance.
Mm-hmm. And Dad did.
He did.
Hmm.
But
your relationship really never.
yeah, it was I could never really do anything right. And I think a lot of it was because I was a mama's boy. He would try to he'd work on the cars. He was a great mechanic and stuff.
Mhm.
And hey, someone come help me with this. Nah, that's okay. Or I'd be out there not really paying attention and he'd get frustrated and send me back into the house. I couldn't cut the lawns right.
Mhm.
I couldn't clean the windows right.
Mhm.
So
So you think that marginally or and some really impacted, and you said through therapy, you impacted the fact that kind of led you into the life of addiction?
yeah, well, yeah, I would. What can I use as an example? I bounced around a few jobs here, a few jobs there. Um, would have opportunities that would come up, and I would ruin the chance by going to get high and just disappearing.
Mm.
As time went on, moving furniture, I would move people, and they would tell me, "Why are you doing this, man? You've got such a
Yeah.
mastery of the English language, man. You're a great person. You ever thought of getting in sales?" Every time I moved someone that was in that position, they're like, "You gotta get in sales. You gotta get in sales."
Mhm.
So finally, I got in sales, and I hit the ground running. And the next thing you know,
You're really good at that too.
I was selling cars, but hey, we want to talk to you about making a sales manager. I'd go out and disappear for 3 or 4 days and get high.
Is that when you were doing crack or was that?
Yeah, I probably started smoking crack when I was at the hotel.
See in Carmel?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
and I was turned on to it by a couple of friends they were brothers,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to mention names.
No,
Right?
please don't.
Okay. So
I mean, you can, but I don't think that's a good idea.
so they kind of turned me on to it, and I just kind of relied on them. Here's the money, you do whatever you go. But over time, I learned how to make it myself.
Mm.
And one thing that was consistent was anytime I was introduced to a dealer, they would tell me, "Hey, you know what? Don't come back with them. You come yourself. You're a good guy. You come yourself." Kind of like looking out for me because they knew I was probably getting ripped off. They're like, "You know what? You come straight to me. You don't." I had one dealer ask me, he goes, "How much did you get?" I said, "Oh, I got this much." He goes, "That's not what they bought. They bought quite a bit more." It's like, oh. And I'm the kind of guy, I don't get mad at them. I just make sure it doesn't happen again.
So you were doing that for a long time. So talk about your relationships. Because in the middle of that, I knew a couple of you about your relationships as your little sister, but I mean, I definitely know about, you had a baby.
Yeah, well, before that, it was just like, I didn't have patience for relationships. It was just like, I'm Curtis Wilson. Curtis Wilson does what Curtis Wilson wants to do when Curtis Wilson wants to do it. I got that line from a friend who this woman was chewing me out, and I was like, not even paying attention to her, right? And he turned to her and he said, just give up. Curtis Wilson does what Curtis Wilson wants to do when Curtis Wilson wants to do it.
Do you think your addiction prevented you from really stabilizing or committing in a relationship?
It allowed me not to. It allowed me to just, you know what? I don't need this. Okay. Like I said, I used that phrase just rotated in my brains because it hit home. I didn't, I guess as time went on, I saw the relationship between my mother and father, and I didn't want that. So I was just like, 3, 4 months, 5 months, I'm done.
Let's talk about that.
I would start doing, my behavior would go down that path of either making them mad at me on purpose, doing the things that I know would piss them off, and just moving back home.
So talk about dad and mom's relationship, because it was really toxic at some point when I was in junior high, you were in high school, is when it really kind of went downhill.
Yeah.
And he became, you used to describe it as a terror in the home.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, like I said, his father was really an angry drunk. And I think it just wore on him. And as he got older, he started drinking more that I can remember. But it wasn't a Monday, Friday, every night after work he'd have a drink. It was kind of like a weekend thing. You know, he was off weekends.
Mhm.
Mom would work weekends. She was off during the week. Mom worked weekends. So he'd be home and watching his news, listening to stereo, and he'd have a drink. Remember that big old bar we had that used to be right here?
Mhm.
And but he wouldn't drink to get drunk, and then he wasn't drunk and mean and stuff, because I'd come home high as a kite and ask him what would happen? I don't know. I think like my car was broke down or something like that. I'd come home and say, hey, I need to give my buddies a ride home. Can I borrow the truck? And he'd give me the keys, no questions asked. Or I'd come and ask him for money. He'd give me money, no questions asked.
Mhm.
And he'd give me money. Not no 20, he'd give me $50, $100. All I got's 100. All right.
And back then that was a lot of money.
Yeah. You know, I'd go out, get drunk and get high. I was just like, and put gas in the car. And drive it, yeah.
Lord have mercy.
Disappear for 2 days.
So
But yeah, I mean, it was, you know, then I kind of want to keep the timeline here. So I started getting high,
Mhm.
started smoking crack.
You had a daughter.
Oh, yeah. So the Sylvia thing was I was dating someone that she worked with. And that was it, like I said, about 3 or 4 months. You know, it's just like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm tired of this. And I walked in the club one night and Sylvia was working the front desk. And I walked in. At the time, I was engaged to this girl.
Mm-mm.
I walked in.
To the other girl.
Yeah, walked in, gave her a kiss. She fixed me a drink. I said, hold on just a second. Walk out, kiss Sylvia and said, we're hooking up. And she was like,
How old was she?
she says she was 18. I'm pretty sure she was 17.
How old were you?
8 years older.
My goodness.
There's an 8-year difference, so 24, 25.
And you liked her, so.
She was giving me the eye.
I'm sure if I interviewed her, it would be a different story.
No, yeah, well, I walked in and she was standing there at the front desk and she looked up and looked at me.
And that's the eye to you.
Oh, come on, I'm a man. Anytime a woman looks at you, what's the first thing you're gonna do? Beeline straight forward. Men don't play hard to get. Women do.
Things have changed.
Yeah,
She looked at you. Okay.
yeah, she looked at me like, I want that. And I was like, okay.
Goodness.
And the rest is history. I mean, we
Oh
hooked
my
up.
goodness.
Hooked up a couple times. Straight booty call.
Lord Jesus.
She was a booty call. She got pregnant. And I ran.
Wow. But then your daughter came on, she looks identical to you.
Yeah.
I remember.
Yeah, there were a few instances where I'm at the time I was driving a beer truck, and one of my stops was this quick stop, which was down the street from her apartment. And I guess she drove by and saw the truck, so she pulled in. And I think about this. I was so mean to that little girl. I was mean. You know, she came up, gave me, hi, Daddy. I was just like, give her a little hug. Looked at Sylvia like, don't ever do that again. So, and then Sylvia would try to, she'd bring the baby around to see Mom. And I never forget. I think you told her the same thing too. And Mom told her one time, she goes, he's not ever going to love you. He'll do what's right by you. I know my son, he's not ever going to.
No, I didn't tell her that. But Mom told her that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you weren't well. You were broken, or you feel like that, or it's just your attitude.
Yeah, I was using them.
Yeah. And I didn't know that, but Mom probably did.
I was using them.
Yeah. I was younger, so I think I was out doing my own thing. I don't think that I paid much attention to that. And our daughters were 6 months apart, years being older. And So after that, you have your daughter, but not really in a relationship, maybe kind of on and off.
Yeah.
What caused your addiction to take such a toll or such a hold or grab a hold of you that you were functional? But you mentioned to me, I mean, at some point you said you were going to do the addiction as long as you could control or maintain it and not the adverse. So what happened? Because you apparently have been doing crack cocaine for many years.
Mm-hmm. I think it was when I actually got with Sylvia. I actually got with her. Moved in,
Okay.
became a family, and it's not what I wanted. I was miserable. It was not what I wanted. I thought I could do better. I knew I could do better. It wasn't what I wanted. So I rebelled.
Mm.
I rebelled. I mean, so it wasn't something, I mean, she partied, but it wasn't partying like I party.
Mm-hmm.
And, once she had the baby, she had to handle her responsibilities. Mm-hmm. She rarely went out. So it was just like.
She's a good mother.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I was constantly out, and even as I spent more time with her, I got worse. If I look back and I'm honest with myself, the more time I spent with her, the worse I got.
You know why?
Because I didn't think I deserved it. Based on my father's behavior towards me, I didn't deserve anything good. I talk about messed up when I got into the car business, I did very well. And every time an opportunity would come up to do better, a position of like authority or something, I'd screw up.
You didn't think it was because of that? So your reasoning behind not doing well or plummeting when you were with Sylvia wasn't necessarily because of Sylvia. It was because you didn't think you deserved Sylvia and all that she brought in terms of commitment, in terms of family life, because of what you had experienced with that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. And then I didn't figure that out until after therapy. About 1.5 years of therapy, which I started doing. I think my doctor, when I started seeing the therapist, it was before the congestive heart. No, it wasn't. I started seeing the therapist based on a doctor's recommendation because after the congestive heart failure diagnosis, I just closed in. I wasn't associating with anybody. Mm-hmm. I wasn't working. Mm-hmm. I couldn't really go back to the car business because, based on the cardiologist's recommendation, it was like, no.
Much stress.
Yeah. The stress wasn't the job, it was the hours.
Yeah.
Because I was the kind of person that would walk in there at 8:30 in the morning and wouldn't leave till 9:30 at night.
Yeah. I
would purposely try to sell a car at 8 o'clock at night so I didn't have to go home. Mm-hmm. Or not go home, but go out. And that was consistent until I got I was clean when I started the last dealership. Mm-hmm. And I had about 3 years in because I didn't do anything. Like when I got diagnosed with the congestive heart failure, obviously I stopped partying.
How many times did you go through a rehab?
Twice.
Mm-hmm. And what happened?
Twice? 3 times.
Probably 3, because when I got in...
It was 3. 2008 was the last time.
So, you're really good with dates. So...
Well, when I have a memory. It's so hard to remember. Some stuff just sticks with me, some stuff...
So, what happened when you were in rehab?
The same thing. I was like, the first time I was in, I was like, man, I don't belong with these people. I'm better than this. I mean, Curtis, you need to just quit. You don't belong in this. So 30 days, out, about 6 months later, started using again. Second time around, I think I did 60 days. Each time was more. I did 60 days. And got kicked out.
Well, I'm not laughing.
Yeah, I got kicked out.
You're being prideful?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And arrogant.
Yep. They say
You let them know that you made more money than they did.
ego edge got out, and I was just like, yeah, I don't need this. I'm done with you people.
So why did I get a phone call?
Because they teach you in the rooms, keep coming back. It works. You're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I was sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Mm-hmm.
And Sylvia was straight up said, don't call me anymore.
Mm.
And I told her, I said, well, the only other person I can call is my sister. And you don't want her to get involved because she will get me straight. And then you will be sitting there with your, this is the conversation we had just before I went out. I said, you'll be sitting there with your lips stuck out because she will put me straight and keep me straight and do what it takes to keep me straight. She'll know as long as I can keep him straight for a few months, he'll be fine. Once I get him down that path, he's Curtis Wilson. He's my brother. I know him. He'll be fine. Not and to Sylvia's.
Relationships are different.
To Sylvia's benefit, she was always there. I'd call, she'd come get me, and then she would hit me. Yeah, crackhead this, and you're cracking in your family. Because I was bad enough. I almost missed birthday parties. I almost missed celebrations and stuff like that. And it was just like, I couldn't do that anymore. I didn't want to do that anymore. I remember my first time, I remember they wouldn't let me in Sun Street. They were like, no, we don't feel like you're a candidate for Sun Street. And I'm like, you know how much I spend on crack cocaine a month? Do you?
How much were you spending?
Oh, babe. Come on, I was making 10 grand a month and 4,500 of it was spiff money. In other words, you'd sell old units, you'd sell special units, and they pay you cash every Monday. So we have a sales meeting on Friday. These are the spiff cars, yada, yada, yada. What do you think Curtis did? Sold the spiff cars. I was very good at it.
Okay.
You know what? I know you're here for a truck, but let me show you this.
And that's you. And so when you got your money, you would spend it on crack?
I'd give her my check and I'd spend the cash.
Oh, the spiff money.
Spiff
it was like an extra
mine.
check.
Yeah.
And then you would spend it all on crack.
Who are you telling?
But you were taking care of home. I mean, with your other, you would give her the check.
Yeah, but I'd disappear for 4 days.
Mm.
I was classic. I'd disappear. I'd show up Friday morning, showered, shaved, one eye open, still under the influence of the cocaine, sitting in the sales meeting, nodding because I hadn't slept in 4 days. They'd call me in the office, Curtis, man, we need you. You're one of our best sales. So we got yada, yada. How many appointments you got? I said, I've got about 10 because when I came down, I'd answer my phone messages before I went and got more and go eat. I'd answer my phone messages and make appointments with people.
Functional.
So. And nobody knew.
Now you probably remember the date. I don't remember the exact date when I got the phone call. When we did the intervention, when I was called, because I had no idea that you were doing cocaine.
Hey, remember you came and picked me up in Marina?
Yeah, I had no idea.
I walked. What did I do? I called you, walked across the street, walked down the street.
Well, you first sent me on a wild goose chase because you told me you were in Santa Cruz, and so that's where I went.
Did I?
Somebody did. That's where you were. That's where you were. And I went to Santa Cruz, couldn't find you. I came back. You were in Marina.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I think he went to my ex-boss's house in Prunedale. I'm in Prunedale. In not Corral, but out there, just past Toro, San Venancio.
Did I?
Lived in San Venancio.
I may have.
Yeah.
But I know they sent me on a wild goose chase in Santa Cruz. So
they might have sent you to Santa Cruz. I don't know why, but
yeah. So I came to Marina and
took me home.
I brought you here.
Yeah, Dad said go get my son.
Well, I brought you here, and we opened up your whatever your suitcase, your duffel bag, and I have never in my life seen anything so intricately put together.
And folded.
all your paraphernalia for your crack cocaine. I didn't know. I opened it up and it was all folded up. Now you had to walk me through everything. And then you were heavy set. You're smaller now, but you were big. So you're the biggest crackhead I've ever seen. And so I guess I was still in disbelief because it was my first time. I never knew you to do anything beyond drinking and marijuana. So when Sylvia called me, I just couldn't understand. And I was devastated and I was scared. And because so of course I went looking for you. And when I picked you up, you were very humbled. You came in here, you sat down and you walked me through everything that was in your duffel bag that was neatly folded up, as if you were, I don't know what you thought you were doing, not doing that.
That's how I was raised.
So even in your
Stay-
crack cocaine, you had it all.
Yep, stay clean, keep your stuff full, keep your stuff organized. That was, I mean, my father was military.
So what kept you from doing heroin?
Oh God, no, needle in the arm, pills.
You never liked needles.
No.
Is that the only thing that kept you from doing it?
Yeah, and that for me, that was just hardcore. Even though crack cocaine was hardcore,
Right.
heroin was just a non-starter. Heroin and pills just never been a.
And what about and meth? Because meth wasn't really as prominent then.
No, meth wasn't prominent then.
So you weren't.
In fact, meth is taken over from crack cocaine.
Right. Do you think you would have tried meth had you stayed out there?
No,
Okay.
because I had tried it.
Oh, you had?
But with the two brothers that got me started on the crack, I mean, they kind of graduated into meth, and I was just like,
That wasn't your thing.
no,
Thank God you didn't get addicted.
no, you know why? Because I didn't get high.
Oh,
When
it
I did it, it was just like, it was nasty. It
didn't.
was a lot of work, and
Thank God. So I pick you up and we come back here and then we get you back into Sun Street.
right,
And you were willing to go this time. You really wanted to stop.
yeah.
That was my impression. And then the bigger thing for me was that
2008.
was it?
Uh-huh.
The bigger thing for me was that you came to church and the Lord saved you. And you knew the Bible back. I mean, you came in there and mastered like you did anything else.
Yeah,
You knew the word. We had the Bible studies. You'd study the lesson beforehand. You could almost teach the lesson. So you were doing very well. And it seems like from that perspective, you may have had a couple of slip-ups after that.
yeah. But it wasn't. It wasn't the 3 or 4.
It
It was never the 3 or 4 night disappear. I went out once. You know, they loved me so much. The boss came and got me one time, and he was asking questions. I said, "Well, what happened?" Because yeah, somebody stole a car. I'm like, "Well, you got cameras. You know it wasn't me. I'm in my truck. I don't, you know." And he goes, "Yeah, well, so and so came in looking for you. I sold him the car, so it's all in your name. He didn't want to work with anybody else."
So they were still covering you.
Yeah.
So God still protected you.
Yeah. And mom
knew then? Well, no, mom was dead by then.
Yeah, mom had passed.
Do you think mom knew before she passed?
She might not have known
the extent of it. Yeah.
She probably thought it was because I remember she found I smoking weed. And at the time I think I was dealing weed, but it was small time, like a couple people. And I had a little smoker that packed the weed in and smoked it. So what's this your cocaine thing? I go, "No, mom, I don't do cocaine. That's for weed." Oh.
So that's all she knew.
That's all she knew.
asked.
Yeah. And at the time I wasn't doing cocaine.
So 2008, we get you, we pick you up and then you accepted Christ. Do you think God really is what the changing factor? What was the changing factor?
To not believe in me. It wasn't all about me. I wasn't the center anymore. I accepted Jesus Christ into my life. And, I didn't mind telling people that I was a disciple for the devil. I mean, he had his hand on me and I had my hand in him.
Before you got saved.
Because no matter what anybody told me, I was Curtis Wilson. I will get through this when I want to get through it. Okay. I'm successful and I'm not successful at the same time. So that contradiction with it, that battle was, got me just deep down.
But once you accepted Christ, it changed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it did. And it gave me something else to believe in other than me. They used to always teach us in the rooms, you have to let go of the ego because all ego is edge got out. And I remember my first time in rehab, I fought against the God thing. I was just like, sure, okay, whatever. Whatever you guys want to believe in, And but to the room's benefits, the NA and AA rooms that I frequented, they're like, you don't have to call it God. You don't have to call it Jesus Christ. You want to believe in a power
higher than yourself.
That's fine. Just call it I believe in a higher power.
Mhm.
That's nothing wrong with it,
Mhm.
whatever it is, you want to believe in something other than yourself.
But then,
Um, and that went in one ear and out the other. And each time I went to rehab, it was just like I stayed longer, I absorbed more. Like my
Right.
second time in rehab, I was teaching classes. And I had a knack for picking on like I would be in a room,
mhm,
about 25, 30 people in a room. We've got our books that we're reading.
mhm,
And I'm teaching the class rather than pick on the person who can read good, the person who's obviously absorbing the information.
Mhm.
I pick on the person that's sitting on the side of her, and I can look on his face and see that he's down and out. He's not, he's feeling intimidated,
mhm,
and then I'd lift him up,
mhm.
people would start, hey, we're not gonna laugh at anybody. Go ahead, buddy, read.
So that's what ministry, you noticed ministry was in
Just
you then.
read, you read how the best you can, I'll help you with some of the words.
Mhm,
And, they sit up,
mhm,
they feel better about themselves. And then I knew I did something good,
mhm.
and that's what really drove me. And then I would have like one of the senior instructors, hey, you got to think about doing something like this.
Mhm.
And at the same time, you would talk to me about it. I remember one time we were eating after church or something. You ever thought about getting into this to the point of where you're running your own
Yeah,
thing?
I can see
I
it.
was just like, thought about it.
Mhm.
But I wanted to get back to the carpets. So I was hooked.
Yeah, you were. I think it was the adrenaline,
I was hooked.
the high,
I was,
and I mean, the high of,
yeah,
and then the height and the validity and the validation.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. It was instant gratification,
Mhm.
and
And the money, it all went all the same at
it
the same
all went on
time.
the same thing. And then I had gotten to the point where the money wasn't going to be a detriment to my character because I wasn't getting high anymore.
Okay, but then
Um,
your health failed.
yeah, see, that kind of bummed me out with I would sit there, that kind of bummed me out with the God thing because I was just like, look, I got 4 or 5 years in, got about a bing, and then you want to hit me with the health thing? And then I thought about it, and I was like, I'm sorry, God, this isn't what you're doing. This is my doing. Had I not used for so long at such a level that was just incredible. When I look back now and think
How
about
many years?
how many years and how much money I spent.
How many years were you an addict?
Oh, let's see. If I'm honest about my cocaine addiction, cocaine usage in high school, I was probably an addict junior year
At 17.
at 17.
Mm-hmm.
I was probably an addict junior year because, every weekend it was, cocaine party. Every
And then
weekend.
when you
Nothing during the week.
right.
It was weekends, weekends only for the party.
And then when you became clean and didn't touch it again, you were.
I think when I got to the final dealership I worked at, I had been clean 3 years. I'd have been clean 3 years. So 2008. Figured 2009. Because 2008, I got out of rehab. I kind of bounced around a little bit. So 2009.
So from 1979 to 2009.
Right.
Wow.
Yes. To 2009, I was solid.
Mm-hmm.
I was an addict. And then shortly after 2009, I was at Victory Toyota. It was January 2010 when I passed out on the lot. And my boss is like, and they found me. They found me lying out there by a car. And they walked me inside and said, man, you gotta go to the doctor. So I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. So I went to the doctor. The doctor sent me to a cardiologist. And that's when I got diagnosed. He says, we had a chart of hearts. And somebody was with me. From 1 to 10, I was a 7, 10 being the worst. He says, you're about a 7.5. You're at serious risk of sudden death. And so it was like, are you serious? He goes, I couldn't be more serious. It's got congestive heart failure. And that didn't sink in because I still went back and sold cars and worked buku hours. And then I think I had another incident. And I know I didn't go back. I didn't go back to Toyota. I didn't go back to work.
Mhm. You were working for Gold Star at one point.
Yeah, that was the final. Yeah, that was the final one. I went to work there. I think 2 years into it, I had an incident. 911 call took me to the hospital. Blood pressure was, you know, 2 something over 190. And the doctor's like, Mr. Wilson, how long have you been feeling bad? I said, oh, a couple months. He's like, a couple of months. He goes, so you've probably had your blood pressure this high for that long. You're lucky you're not dead because the stroke is 200 and you're well over 200.
Did you recognize that was God protecting you and saving?
No, at the time I was just like, he's like, you've got some serious genetics because any normal person would have been dead or stroke. I'm like, okay, so I'm not normal. No, I didn't. I think having you come to the hospital, and I think you prayed one time with me. And I remember the tension because you showed up to the hospital before Sylvia did because they called you because I had you on my emergency contact, not her.
Christ coming back into your life, so we prayed together. Is that
Yeah.
what it was?
Yeah, and then you left. We all prayed, and then you left. And that was it. I mean, I'd already been clean a little while. So I had to leave that business, and I didn't work.
That's right.
I sat around feeling sorry for myself, going back and forth. And one thing I did do was I started seeing my doctors on a regular basis. I had the cardiologist, I had a regular doctor, Dr. Siqueiro, so I see now, and then I had my kidney doctor. And I think I was just talking with one of them not too long ago. I said, man, how long has it been? It's been coming a while.
But then you were going to therapy as well.
Well, Dr. Siqueiros recommended, he goes, because I had gained weight, I was sitting around feeling sorry for myself, and it's like, there's nothing wrong. The only thing, why don't you just go back to work? I bet you that would, and so before that, he had recommended a therapist. I started seeing her. And the beautiful thing was we didn't talk about Sylvia or my relationship at all. We just talked about what I'd gone through. What do you think the triggers were?
Yeah.
We talked about mom, we talked about dad, we talked about you, and we talked about me. So what do you think? Kept asking. She kept asking, and the real trigger just came down to not feeling adequate enough because of how my father treated me, and how that was an excuse. That wasn't a real reason. That was an excuse. And she said, that's an excuse, right? Your addiction was you.
That's hard.
Yeah, your addiction was you. You found something that made you feel somewhat better, even though it didn't make you feel better. You found something else to take the place of what you thought you were missing at your home. Because based on, then she was having this conversation, based on our conversations, you had a good home. You grew up in a good home. You didn't have to worry about where you're going to eat. You had clothes on your back. You had a car. You had this. You had that. I mean, you grew up in a middle-class home that was very comfortable. And I was like, yeah, it was. And she goes, think about it. You grew up as a Black man in America, in Salinas,
Two-parent home.
in a good home. And I told her I grew up in South Salinas. She goes, the whitest part of Salinas. It was funny because she was white. And she was telling me this stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, so once I did the therapy and she kind of got me back on track, that's when I started dabbling, smoking meat again and stuff, and just coming up with hobbies. I wanted to start bowling. I didn't start bowling, but I started smoking meat and stuff and doing the family parties and stuff.
Yeah.
getting the feedback, it's great. To do.
See, and that changed
Yeah,
everything.
but getting feedback, that took the place of selling cars.
Yeah,
You
you
know, I
needed
did-
something to replenish that
Yeah,
part.
I'm always the kind of, even now, even driving the bus, it's like, I get pissed off that somebody gets employee of the month and they've been there 3 months. I made a comment about it the other day. She was sitting there and some other guy, he'd been there for 15 years, I think, and
Mhm.
he just made employee of the month.
Have you ever?
No. Mm-mm. And it's what bothers me about it is I know I'm very good at it. And my passengers love me. So, I Monterey in the summertime, I do Monterey. I sign out of Monterey to do the trolleys because I get that person to person contact.
And you like people.
And I love people and I love these kind of people because they're where I'm from. I know that sounds bad. I have a total different clientele in Monterey. And when I do the trolleys,
I can imagine there.
total different.
You've got Pebble Beach, you've got some.
Well, you've got people that can afford to travel. If you can afford to travel, you come from the Midwest of California, that's gonna cost a couple.
I see what you're saying.
And I've got people.
So they're
from New York,
tourists.
Yeah, they're tourists.
Okay.
So they're up here.
Right.
So we can relate, and talk about everything, and I do my little tourist thing. Over here, we've got the Grand Hall of Monterey. It's been around since 1876. And over here, we have the aquarium. Come on, here we go. Okay. This is Cannery Row, ladies and gentlemen, Cannery Row.
That's so you.
You've read the books, it's Cannery Row. We're here. Get out, take your pictures. Here's a great possibility. Notice all the seals. This is Seal Beach, okay? Certain times of the year, it's just full of seals. Only the stupid people go down there and try to take pictures with the seals. Notice they got the yellow caution tape. Yeah, somebody got attacked by a seal. And they're laughing, they're crying. Here's the thing they'll do, but do I get any feedback? Does anyone call in and says, MST, hey, you know what? This guy right here, he was on trolley number 1910. Awesome. No, I don't get that. So that kind of bothers me. But I had one of the senior managers, actually, I had just pulled up and there's a stop before the beginning. And I load most of the people right there in the parking garage. Then I pull up and stop, and I've got about 8 minutes. Pull the parking brake, get out of the seat. Hi, my name's Curtis Wilson. I'll be your coach operator for today. Bada bing, bada boom. We got rules. Okay, please don't pull the cord. And he listened. And he goes, you know what? I'm going to record you. That's a great thing. And coming from him, he's a good guy. Yeah.
So God will allow people to honor you where it matters.
Yeah. And then like I said, I get upset for a little bit when they don't give me
The
accolades, and I'm just like, okay, it's no big deal. The old Curtis would have been a big deal. I don't know, I got high, pissed off.
That would have caused you to relapse.
Yeah.
But now?
No, it's not that big of a deal.
Now, the blessing is that you were able to think about it. You went through, how many people can come through it's 40 years. A 40-year crack addiction, 40 years.
79 through 2009. 79, I first started smoking crack. Probably really didn't become an addiction until.
But 40 years of using crack cocaine on any level.
Yeah.
So to do that, come through congestive heart failure, God heals you. Do you believe that?
Yeah.
God healed your body. You went through a depression because of it, but God healed your body. You come out of that, and then you're able to start a whole new career. You and I talked about that. Who does that?
I had applied for this position before. I wouldn't have made it to the first business.
You're driving. I mean, that means you had to pass a rigorous background check, a drug test.
Random.
Random.
Yeah.
And look how far.
And he's so good. I've been there 2.5 years. I've never been tested.
But you're not doing drugs anyway.
No, I'm like, test me.
Doesn't that feel good?
It does. It does. Like when I first got hired. Well, okay, you've got to go down to such and such a place and get your drug screen and physical. And I'm like, my friend, I am clean. Just because it does. That's my goods. That's my goods. That's my goods. That's my goods. Okay, sir, be in this cup. I'm being in the cup. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm being in the cup. Well, you have a regular heartbeat. What next? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me.
But you do, how's your health now today?
Well, the health is good. I mean, I see Dr. O tomorrow, but,
How old are you?
I'm 62. I'll be
Oh my
63.
goodness.
Yeah, I,
I'm asking that, they think
He's-
that's my brother,
oh,
how come I don't know?
yeah,
But
you were talking earlier about, how much weight I've lost.
yeah, you've lost a lot of weight.
Yeah, doctor's trying to get me under 300, so that's probably why I eat like once a day.
And how tall are you?
6'3" on the nose. And I'm 307. Well, I'll find out tomorrow how much I weigh. I blowed it up, but I'm good
Look
now.
good.
Nothing swollen.
And your kidneys are good?
Doctor Brett, he said, you've got 60-year-old kidneys,
You're 62.
yeah. You know, they're worn because of the high blood pressure, but
Mhm.
you
All that from using crack, you
Yeah.
think, or is just genetics?
know.
Both.
Well, the high blood pressure probably stems from the crack cocaine.
Mhm.
I'm
And
sure
not managing
I
it.
was, yeah, not managing it. I was borderline in high school. And I
Really?
didn't take medication then. I saw my first when I first saw the cardiologist, he prescribed some medications. I didn't take them. So this new cardiologist, I first met him. So when I see here by your records, you met with Dr. So-and-so and he put you on your regimen and you didn't follow the regimen? I'm like, nope. He goes, well, let me put it to you this way. I got people that are this close to dying. They want all the help. They're ready. If you're not ready, let me know. I can.
That's Dr. O. That's him.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Mhm.
All right. So
But
the last thing we've been fighting about is diet. He
Mhm.
wants me to invert the pyramid. I'm gonna give you vegetables. I'm like, dude, I
Yeah,
can't
he
do-
wants you to be a vegetarian.
Yeah,
He can-
right.
yeah.
can't do that.
So you might not realize this or not, but in the course of you riding or driving the bus, you would stop someplace, and I guess you would clean the bus. And somebody that I know, a mutual friend, went up to you and said, "Hey, Curtis, how you doing?" And you turned around and gave them a spiritual track. And you messed it up. They needed a track.
Oh, I think somebody just gave it to me.
So you gave
Some
it to somebody,
passenger.
and you gave it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So do you talk about God at all with your passengers?
No.
It's not that you don't have those. You don't. No, because especially
No,
with the
but
trolley,
that's-
no, it doesn't come up because.
No, I mean, people will say, God bless you. God bless you.
But you really understand that God is your higher power now. That's not an issue for you.
No. No, not an issue. I just,
Are you still reading your Bible at all? Are you still in the Word?
yeah, I don't know where it's at.
You need to pick it up. It sounds like.
It's, you know what? I do know where it's at. Yeah, I know where it's at. How do I put this? I believe if I live good and I know that I've accepted it in my life, and it's
Mhm.
funny, as good things happen to me while I drive the bus, I give him praise,
Okay. Mhm.
and it's I think about it afterwards and I go, that's kind of, but you know what? Praise him anyway.
He's good.
Yeah, it's like I get all green lights.
You give it a praise.
Okay. No bad passengers, give them praise.
Well, yeah, because that could be. That's dangerous.
That's just, I listen to other drivers bitch and moan about their passengers, and I'm like, no, I've never experienced that. Oh, you will. Good things happen. I try to do the right thing on a regular basis. And I'm positive. Everybody that comes on the bus gets a good morning or good afternoon. How you doing? I speak bus Spanish, I call it.
Oh no.
So,
Oh no, I can only imagine what that is.
Oh yeah, it's just the typical stuff. Good morning, good afternoon. How you doing? Do you want to transfer? I can say all that stuff in Spanish.
Really?
Yeah. And then they start in, and I'm just like,
yeah, that was about it.
habla muy poquito, señora. But then someone will come up and go,
and
you speak very good
yeah,
Spanish.
your addiction is good.
No,
And we should be. Being here, we should be.
Yeah, the other day, a lady said, you know what? You speak it very good. Your pronunciation.
The pronunciation
Right.
is
I'm
good.
like, okay, well, thank you. Can you sit down, please?
Okay, so if we had to label this session, because this is called Going 180, so if you had to give a theme to what your Going 180 means to you, what would you label it? What would you call it?
Just a complete turnaround from where I was,
So a complete turnaround.
you know? And you figure it was a 360, because I started out a really good kid
Mm-hmm.
from a good family, good background.
We're talking about going 180, because remember,
We went down the dark path,
right?
became a serious disciple for the devil.
My
At the
God.
same time, you know, praising God and praising my mother. His mom had passed.
Mhm.
And I knew when she was looking out for me, because I get pulled over by the highway patrol
Mhm.
and talk my way out of it.
Mhm.
No search the car. Had they searched the car, I'd have been in jail.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they teach you in the rooms: jails, institutions, and death. And your addiction will lead to jail, institution, or death.
Mm. And yours have led to none, except for maybe going to rehab, but.
Yeah, no institutions,
Mm-mm.
you know. I went to jail a couple times, but it was for, you know, no turn signal, and no, Mr. Wilson, you got a warrant. Oh, okay.
So it would be for you, just the turn.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm proud.
And now I'm a licensed professional coach operator, commercial driver.
Wow.
You know, my only regret is I wish I could have done this 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Because my goal is to do 10 years. I'll be
Mhm.
70.
My goodness.
I should still be able to drive if my health holds up, and it's holding up.
Mhm.
You know, I'm taking my medications. I do get exercise.
Mhm.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I have a run there. I've got a 20-minute hold,
Mhm.
and then I use that 20 minutes to walk around the
That's
parking
good.
lot.
Do you have any fears?
No, I don't think so. I don't think I'm really afraid of anything. That's part of the reason why the addiction lasted for so long.
Mm.
I wasn't afraid of the jails, institutions. I just knew deep down inside I'm not going to jail,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to prison, and I'm not going to die.
Mm-hmm.
And there were times where, you spend $400 to $4,500 a month smoking crack. That's a lot of crack cocaine.
Mm-hmm.
And I calculated the second time I went through rehab, they ask you,
Mm-hmm.
so how much money did you spend? And I told him, they looked at me like, yeah, okay, whatever. No, listen, I gave him the breakdown of what my income was.
Of course you did.
And I gave him a breakdown of my extra money. And they were like, oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I will, I do have one regret. The one regret was the atmosphere of the meetings was really not conducive to keeping people like me interested, keeping people like me clean.
Mm-hmm.
I was told one time in no uncertain sense, we don't want you speaking at the meetings. Because I laughed. I made it was funny. I would tell people at the Sun Street, I would tell people my stories.
Mm-hmm.
And how the things that I went through, that they went through too.
Mm-hmm.
But how I found it funny. And I would have people laughing and cracking up and stuff like that. They didn't want that.
But were you trying to make light of it, or didn't you take it
It
seriously?
wasn't. Was I trying to make light of it? No, I was just telling my story.
That you're funny.
Yeah,
So they would laugh.
yeah, I was telling my story, and it was the same. I was going through the same stuff that they were going.
Right.
They were sitting there smoking 20 cigarettes and drinking 30 cups of coffee
while they were in rehab.
Yeah, so they're still addicted. They're still.
And you weren't doing that.
And I was like, you know what?
You never smoked cigarettes.
And I barely drink coffee.
Right.
But I said, if you can't find laughter in the craziness of your life and under addiction, then what's the point?
Mm-hmm.
If you can't laugh at yourself at your worst moments, then what's the point? And that's just who I am.
And that's what probably helped you get out of it too.
Yeah.
And so now what makes you laugh?
Everything. People have always made me laugh. I crack up. I crack up with the people I work with. Oh, the characters I work with, I just laugh at them. I laugh at some of them because they're so angry. I'm like, why are you doing this? This is a customer service industry.
What brings you joy?
My job
Mm-hmm.
and my granddaughter.
Mm-hmm. The baby.
Yeah. Those two things.
Mm-hmm.
I get up, I go to work. I go to work an hour early. Just so I can sit there and chill and listen to people bitch and moan and whine and cry.
Mm-hmm.
Go out and drive my bus. The bus don't hit anything, don't run over anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Pass some people up.
And then come see the baby.
And then hopefully see the baby.
I'm happy that you, like you said, you made the turn and that you've changed. You'll never touch your drug again. So
No.
that's the whole point
You know,
of
and,
going 180.
and I'm past the point of, there were triggers like real foggy nights.
Mm-hmm.
I'd go out because I could drive the back roads and no one could see you.
Mm-hmm.
Real foggy nights now, all they do is piss me off.
So that's a blessing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm grateful. And I just want to again thank my brother, Curtis, for being on my podcast. And this is really special because if you can imagine, we were raised in the same home, some of the same experiences, because one thing that you didn't say, which you could have, is that when we were walking to football games, we would be smoking weed together.
Uh-huh.
And so at 15, I accepted Christ and became saved. And it looked like you went into a different path. But lo and behold, at some point our paths crossed again and you accepted Christ and working through all of that and then came on the other side of an addiction. And now you have a whole new trajectory in life.
Uh-huh.
And so.
And why did our paths cross again? They crossed again because of God. Because think about it. Remember how long you used to come to church with me, come to church with me, come to church with me, come to church with me.
Mm-hmm.
Years.
Mm-hmm.
Years. Come to church with me, come to church with me.
And then
the last time in rehab, come to church with me. Okay.
And there you have it. Love you.
Love you too.
All right.
For substance abuse treatment and mental health referrals, contact the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration's National Helpline at 1-800-662-4357.